Yo, what's up, crew? Everybody good in the room today? Good to see you. My name's Nathan. I'm one of the pastors here, if I hadn't had a chance to meet you yet. All of our family joining us in online. Great to see you. Great to be with you. I have, between our families, I have 3 nephews, 3 nieces. And if you ask any of them, I am their favorite uncle. Guaranteed you can ask any of them that. My very first niece is who gave me the name that all of my other nieces and nephews know me as. My sister Catherine was trying to tell my very first niece, Lucy, trying to teach her my name. And she was learning to talk, and she was getting ready to come and see aunt and uncle. And so she said, I want to teach you Uncle Nathan, Uncle Nathan, Uncle Nathan. So when you see Uncle Nathan, run up to him and say, Uncle Nathan. Uncle Nathan would love that. He would love to hear that. Well, Lucy, full of energy, busted into the door of our house after she learned my name. And she looked up at me and threw her hands up in the air, and she said, hey, Uncle Bacon. And I heard that, immediately fell in love with it. I was like, from this point forth, all of my nieces and nephews will refer to me as Uncle Bacon. She could not say Nathan, but Bacon was even better. I love being an uncle. I get to give them all the stuff that their parents won't give them, buy them all the stuff. They get to eat and drink all the stuff with me that their parents will never let them. I get to teach them questionable habits that then they can take home with them and tell their mom and dad that Uncle Bacon taught them that. Like, I love being an uncle. Now, when you hear the story of Abram, you've probably heard of one of Abram's nicknames was Father Abraham. This was based on a promise that God made Abraham that he was going to be the father of a great nation. And so we call him Father Abraham. But today in Genesis chapter 13, we're not talking about Father Abraham. We're talking about Uncle Abram, Uncle Abe. There's a story between Uncle Abram and his nephew named Lot. Now, unfortunately, I'm sure Abram loved being the fun uncle, the funkle to Lot. But there's a time here in chapter 13, unfortunately, that we got a problem on our hands. And Abram has to take off the fun uncle hat that lets the nieces and nephews do whatever they want and have fun and buy them whatever they want. And he has to put on the Father Abraham hat because he's got a problem. He's got a conflict, an issue that he has to solve, and a choice. A little family drama arises up between Abram and his nephew Lot. And so we're just going to pick back up where we left off last week in Genesis chapter 13. All the notes will be in the app if you have it, or you can pull up your Bible on your phone or in your lap, or there'll be the big Bible on the screen or on the screen in front of you. Here's Genesis chapter 13, starting in verse 5. Lot, old nephew Lot, who was traveling with Uncle Abram, had also become very wealthy with flocks of sheep and goats, herds of cattle, and many tents. But the land could not support both Abram and Lot with all their flocks and herds living so close together. So disputes broke out between the herdsmen of Abram and Lot. And at that time, the Canaanites and Perizzites were also living in the land. Now, remember what happened last week. While Abram was in Egypt, Pharaoh hooked Abram up, gave him a bunch of livestock, a bunch of male and female servants, cows, goats, sheep, hamsters, like whatever he gave him. Now Abram is loaded with them. Now Lot shares in all of those things. And so they go home. They're going back, left Egypt, going back to Canaan. And they realize something when they get home. This house is now officially too small. Right? We're bumping into each other. This land is not big enough for all of these animals to graze and for us all to be together. And so what happened was the shepherds of Lot started to fight with the shepherds of Abram because they were competing for the same land. And so like this family argument came up because there was just too many people and goats jammed onto one piece of property. And so Abram understood, like, hey, something's got to give. I got a decision to make. In verse 8, finally, Abram said to Lot, let's not allow this conflict to come between us or our herdsmen. After all, we're close relatives. The whole countryside is open to you. Take your choice of any section of the land you want, and we're going to go our separate ways. If you want the land to the left, then I'll take the land on the right. If you prefer the land on the right, then I'll go to the left. Abram, you have a decision to make. And Abram does something that is really selfless here. This is crazy. God promised Abram all of the land. God said he was going to bless Abram. Abram was the elder. Abram was the patriarch of the family. Abram was the man that owned everything and had the rights to everything. Abram was the top dog. But for some strange reason, Abram looks at nephew Lot and says, hey man, we need to go our separate ways. It's just too big, like family's growing great, God's blessing. Here's the deal. Whatever area you want, I'll give you first pick. If you want to come over here to the east and pick this land, then great, you can have that. I'll go over here to the west. If you want the land over here, like just look around you, and whatever land that you want, I'm going to give you. Now that's interesting why would Abraham do that? Why would he give his nephew first dibs at having the best? I think here's something that Abraham learned from chapter 12. When you begin to trust God with your life, it's amazing how generous and gracious you become with your things. Abram realized, hey man, God's going to take care of me. God's got me. God's going to provide for me. He always has and he always will. See, when you get that realization in your mind that God will provide for you, that God will look out for you, that God will help you, then you can live. You can look at others and say, hey, I want to help you. I want to bless you. I want to be generous to you. I want to be gracious towards you. And that's what Abraham said. He said, man, take whatever piece of land you want. I'll give you first choice. Because here's what I know. I'm going to trust God and God's going to take care of me. God's going to provide for me. See, Abram didn't have a scarcity mentality. Christians don't have a scarcity mentality like, oh, well, we don't know if there's enough, or we don't know if God's going to provide or if he's going to come through. No, man, we're living open-handed. Yeah, man, whatever's mine, you can have. I'll help you. I'll give to you. I'll serve you. I'll sacrifice for you. That's what Abram does. And this move right here goes to show you, man, Abram learned a lesson from chapter 12. See, chapter 12, he was extremely self-centered, self-focused, self-serving. Now, he's living life open-handed. God has done something to restore his dependence and trust in him. Abram had a decision to make, and so he decided, I'm going to let Lot choose first. Verse 10, Lot took a long look at the fertile plains of the Jordan Valley in the direction of Zoar. The whole area was well-watered everywhere, like the garden of the Lord, the Garden of Eden, or the beautiful land of Egypt. This was before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. Lot chose for himself the whole Jordan Valley to the east of them. He went there with his flocks and servants and parted company with old Uncle Abraham. So Abraham settled in the land of Canaan, and Lot moved his tents to a place near Sodom and settled amongst the cities of the plain. Verse 13, but the people of this area in Sodom were extremely wicked and constantly sinned against the Lord. Abram had a decision to make. Now, in these verses, Lot, you got a decision to make. Which side do you want? What do you want? Which piece of land do you want? Now, Lot does this. Lot looks to the west over near the city of Sodom. What he sees is green grass everywhere. Things are well watered, palm trees, resorts, all of the amenities that he sees on the western side near this city. Running water, a developed area. It's ideal, the area around Sodom. It would be like for us living in the best neighborhood, the best property, the beachfront property, or maybe your scene is like the scenic cabin on the top of the mountain overlooking the mountains, the farmhouse that's on 100 acres. I don't know what your perfect case scenario for living is, but for Lot, he saw it when he looked to the west towards the Jordan Valley, which is where the city of Sodom is. And then the Bible says Lot looked over to the east, and there's Canaan. Now, Canaan is the land that God promised Abraham. Hey, I'm going to give you this. But here's the reality. Canaan was dry. Not a lot of growth over there. Not a lot of trees. Canaan would have been a fixer-upper, right? If you can get Canaan out of steel, then we'll go over there and we'll put a lot of hard work into it. But if I could choose, man, I'd rather go over here west. It's fertile, it's great, it's water, like beachfront property, waterside, the whole deal. So Lot chooses, just looks with his eyes and chooses to go west, which then leaves Abraham to say, all right, well, if you want that, then I'll go east. I'll go to Canaan, back to the land that God has promised me. Lot wanted the best land. Abraham wanted God. Lot wanted an opportunity. Abram wanted obedience. Lot was thinking, what's best for right here, right now? Abraham knew God is bigger than just what I can see right now. And so I've got to look with eyes of faith. Lot looked with his two eyes of what he could see physically. Abraham looked with eyes of faith, so that he could ask God, what do I need to see that I can't currently see? That's what faith is, believing and understanding in something that hasn't happened yet. And so that was how the decision was made. So Lot goes over here to the west, where the ground is fertile. Abram goes to the east in Canaan. And here's how the story ends. After Lot had gone, the Lord said to Abram, look as far as you can see in every direction, north and south, east and west. I'm giving all of this land as far as you can see to you and to your descendants as a permanent possession. And I will give you so many descendants that like the dust of the earth, they can't be counted. Go and walk through the land in every direction, for I am giving it to you. So Abram moved his camp to Hebron and settled near the oak grove belonging to Mamre. Then he built another altar there to the Lord. Decisions. Abraham had a decision to make. Lot had a decision to make. Fun fact, do you know the most frequently asked question that I get as a pastor? It's not a theological question. It's not a Bible question. The question that I get texted the most and emailed the most and people ask me the most, and they'll catch me in the hallway after the service, hey, can I ask you about something? I'll get an email. Can I swing by your office and meet about something? Is this most frequently asked question. Nathan, I've got a decision to make and I don't know which one to choose. Could be a big decision or a small decision, but like there's something in front of me and I don't know what to do. Maybe it's something like I've been accepted into multiple colleges and I just don't know which one to take. I've been offered a new job, and I gotta be honest, I don't know if I should stay in my current job. Like, is this a dead end? Is this an open door from God? Or should I take this new job? Like, would it be good? Maybe you drive a little further, but do you get paid as much? Like, how do you make that decision? How do you process that? Hey, I live in an apartment, Nathan. How do I know if it's time to move to a house? How do I know if it's time to stop renting and buy a house? Like, there's an opportunity here. I could do this. I could do that. Nathan, what should I do? How do I make that decision? Hey, man, I'm dating this dude, and like, Nathan, there's some red flags, and I don't know if I should break up with him or not. Like, I'm not getting any younger. Like, there's not a lot of dudes knocking on my door. Should I just stick with this one and see what I could do? Hey, Nathan, I've been dating this girl, and I got to be honest with you, man. I don't know if I need to ask her out, like, to be engaged, to be married. How do I know that this is the one? How do I know that this is the person that I should marry? Is there such a thing as the one? Man, Nathan, I got some drama with someone in my life. I got a decision to make. There's something that I got to do, and I've got two options, and I have no idea which. Both of them sound good, or maybe both of them sound bad, and I don't know. Oftentimes, it's not like one good and one bad where it's obvious the choice that we should make. It's like, hey, here's one good, and it has its pros and cons, and one. How do I know which one is better? Like, help. And what I want to show you today is what I share with everybody that sits down with me and says, hey, I got a decision to make and I don't know which way to go. I don't know how to make the decisions. And I don't blame you for thinking about it. Like, I'm not knocking you for saying like, hey, don't email me or call me if you got a big decision to make. Like, the decisions that you and I make are so important. I believe that your future is more determined by the decisions that you make today than the circumstances that you're in today. You and someone else can have the exact same amount of money, exact same job, exact same house and neighborhood, but you can make two totally different decisions, and that is going to drastically impact your future. Your decisions are going to impact your future more than the circumstances. What am I going to do today that's going to impact my life tomorrow? Like, it doesn't matter as much where you are today. Every one of us has a starting point, but what am I going to do? The decisions that I make today are going to drastically impact my future. So if you're taking notes, I'm going to fly through these. I got 8 things that I want you to ask yourself. 8 questions. They're all in the app. Calm down. We're going to be out by 12. You're going to beat the Presbyterians to lunch, okay? 8 things that I want you to ask questions. No matter if I've got a decision to make, no matter how big, no matter how small, run it through this rubric and I believe you'll be a better decision maker. The first one is this. Here's the question. Who should speak into this decision? If you got a decision to make, you need to be asking me, who should speak into this decision? Proverbs 12 says this, the way of a fool seems right to him, but a wise man listens to advice. If you want to be wise, if you want to be a man or woman of great faith in your decision making, then you need to learn how to listen to other wise people for advice. Because here's the reality. A lot of the decisions that you and I have to make in life, we're going to have a blind spot. There's gonna be things that we don't see, that we don't realize, that we simply overlook. There's gonna be things in your life that you honestly, you know are red flags, but you are so sold out to whatever the decision is that you're willing to overlook those things in order to have what you really desire. What you really need, you and I need as followers of Jesus, you need a squad, man. You need a crew around you that is not afraid for you to sit down and talk with you and say, hey, I'm getting ready to make a decision, and for them to look you straight in the face and say, I love you. That's a horrible decision. Don't do it. You have not thought this through. You have not done the you don't want to go there. You're not seeing some things. You need some people to show you the blind spots. Have you thought about this? Well, what about this? Well, here's the negative impact that this is going to take. I'll give you an example in my life. 3 years ago, I needed a new car. My SUV was like giving me problems. It was gonna be thousands of dollars to fix. It was old at the time. And so I decided that I wanted to buy a Jeep Wrangler. I've wanted a Jeep Wrangler for like 15 years. And it's like a dream car for me. Now, here's the problem, just a little insider baseball. I'm not complaining about it. This is just the reality of life. But when you're a pastor, every single decision you make is under a microscope. Like everything I buy, everything I wear, not complaining, I get it if you're a public figure, everything people will judge you by it. And so I realize that. And so I don't want to make a decision that's going to be a distraction for me, for my family, for us, for the church, anything. And the reality is some people would see a pastor rolling around in a Jeep Wrangler and be like, tithes must be up, right? Okay, so that's where my money's going. They don't understand that I'm married to Elizabeth and every nice thing I have comes from Elizabeth. It comes from God, but it comes from Elizabeth as well. I didn't marry Elizabeth for her money. That was just the only way I could get to it, okay? And so, she bought, just kidding, JK, kind of. So she bought me, everything nice I have, Elizabeth bought me. And so they don't know that. All they see is a pastor rolling around in a car that's maybe nicer than your average car. And so here's what I did, man. I talked to Jason. He's an elder at our church. And I said, Jason, man, help me up. I really want to buy a Jeep Wrangler. But I realize this might be a little bit of a fancier car than some people might have. And it does. It costs a little bit more than the average car. Do you think it's okay for a pastor, like your pastor, to be driving around in a Jeep Wrangler? And Jason began to ask me some questions. He's like, hey, man, I know your car is a little bit more expensive maybe than a car that you have or would buy. Let me ask you a question, man. Are you going to have to go into debt over this car? Because I don't want you to go into debt. You can afford something cheaper. And so I told Jason, I said, nah, man, for 15 years, every month we were putting money away, 15 years. So I'm gonna pay cash for the car. I'm not gonna have to go into debt over it. So debt's not a problem, check the box off. Jason also knows that a value of mine is generosity. I always wanna be known as a guy that if you need help, I will give you my time, talent, or treasure. Anything I have, you can have. If it'll help you, I'll give it to you. And so Jason asked me, hey man, you spending this money that you have saved up out of your savings account, is it gonna prevent you from meeting needs? Because I know that's a value of yours. Is it gonna prevent you from being generous in the future because you spent that savings money on a Jeep Wrangler? And so we talked about that and beat that up. I was like, nah, man, our tithe is not going to change. I'm still gonna be able to meet needs above and beyond the 10% of our income that we give. Nah, it's not gonna impact our situation at all. I talked to another buddy of mine. He's a coach, a football coach at East Carolina University. And Ryan told me, he said, I said, Ryan, do you see anything wrong with this? Ryan and I have been rolling together for a long time. He said, well, hey man, Jeep Wranglers, what color are you gonna get? And secretly, I didn't tell him, but he said, I really wanted a candy apple red Jeep Wrangler. And I said, Ryan, why? He's like, dude, I'm just being honest with you. Don't get a red one. Well, I wasn't. Yeah, I wasn't. Why? But if I was, why? He's like, man, flash it. No shade on you if you drive a flashy red car, shiny red car. But he's like, man, driving a candy apple red shiny car is just asking people to look at you. Hey, look at me. I drive a Jeep Wrangler and it's shiny red. And he said, Nathan, will you do me a favor? I said, give it to me. He said, would you please not put mud tires on it? And I wanted to put big tires on it. I wanted it to be candy apple red and put mud tires on Jeep Wrangler, even though I'm never gonna go in the mud. It's just all for looks. And so I had to be open to those guys saying, hey man, that's gonna be a distraction. Hey man, don't do anything that's gonna cause people to question, like you're gonna lose your influence, and nobody wants to say, how's the pastor driving around on a jacked up Jeep Wrangler that's candy apple red? Who paid for that? Where's the money come from? So just don't. So you know what I did? I bought a used Jeep Wrangler that was not red and it's got factory tires on it. But I brought people around in my circle. Hey, man, I don't want to make a decision. And that might seem silly to you, but I don't want to make a decision, man, that's going to cause anybody to lose sight of what I'm really here to do. And that's to point people towards Jesus. So who do you need in your circle? Who is a wise person that you can bring in and say, hey, man, I want to make sure I don't make a poor decision. And are you willing to listen to them? The second question is this: what are the facts? What are the facts around this decision that I need to make? Proverbs 18:13 says this: to answer before listening, that is folly and shame. Man, you don't need to make a decision or provide an answer without doing the research first. Like, you need to listen. You need to seek this out. There's a few details in this story of Abram and Lot that prove to us that Lot did not know all of the facts. He made a decision without knowing and researching. Verse 10 tells us this, that the city that Lot was going to move to, verse 10 said, Lot didn't know that the Lord was going to destroy it later. Like, why in the world would you want to go to a city and build a big house and make it your own, only for the city to burn to the ground? Well, he didn't ask. He didn't seek the Lord. Abram knew. The Bible made it clear. Hey, Sodom and Gomorrah, this city you're moving to is going to be leveled one day. It would be like you buying a nice home that you wanted to live in the rest of your life. This is your retirement home, without doing an inspection on it. Like, I don't want to check to see if there's termites. I don't want to see if it's built on a bad foundation. Like, I don't want to see if, like, the foundation is sinking and in a few years I'm going to have to level it anyway. Man, what are the facts? Don't make a decision hasty. Don't make it in a way that you're just like, man, you didn't do the research. You didn't think it through. So what are the facts? Gather those together. Too often we make decisions in our life based on feelings and not facts. Your feelings will lie to you. Your feelings will make you do things that facts are saying, don't do it. Don't go that way. But Lot fell in love with the green grass. He's like, man, I get a warm fuzzy every time I think about that warm weather and those palm trees over in the city of Sodom. Number 3 is this question right here. When do you need to make a decision? When's the decision? Proverbs 19 says this: desire without knowledge is not good. How much more will hasty feet miss the way? Man, I talk to so many people that have so much regret around decision making because they rushed into things. Now, we call that an impulse buy. I got to be honest, I'm very guilty of impulse buys. Every single time I go to the grocery store and I'm standing in line and I go by the candy aisle and there's a Reese's peanut butter egg right there. It's not on my list. I don't need it, but it's $2 and it always makes its way into my basket. Oops, how'd that get in there? Eat that on the way home. Don't tell anybody. Throw the wrapper away before the girls can see it. Now, it's okay. It's funny when an impulse buy is a $2 Reese's egg because they're always fresh when they're eggs. They always taste the best. But there are some people that will rush into a major life decision. It was just made with haste. Like, you ask them, why'd you do it? I don't know. Man, I rushed into a relationship. I've talked to people that are in a bad marriage. Well, how did that happen? Dude, I just rushed into it. Like, I made a hasty decision, and now I'm in a lifelong relationship. People that go into debt over stuff. Man, why'd you go into debt over that? Man, I don't know. Like, I just bought it. It was an impulse buy. I saw it and I liked it and I went and got it. Okay. Like, hasty feet walking into it. I know people that move jobs like every 6 months, jump from job to job to job to job. Well, the job popped up on Indeed. Well, it overpromised. Well, I thought it would be more opportunity. And now, like, you've got no connections, you've got no stability in job, and nobody wants to hire you because you hop from job to job. Hasty decision making into this. People rush into a big purchase and then they have buyer's remorse. Man, I kind of regret doing that. Kind of regret buying that. I wish I hadn't done that. But what was it? Well, it was on sale. Well, it's sales 101. Of course, that's what they're going to tell you. Say, hey, man, if you don't buy this car, I'm telling you, probably won't be here tomorrow. Somebody's probably going to grab it. Hey, if you don't make an offer on this house, listen, man, this house, there's probably going to be 15 offers tomorrow. You can get in it right now, but I need an offer tonight, right? You got to do it tonight. Hey, this TV is only on sale for this weekend. Okay, you got to buy it. You got to do it. And we rush into it and we get pressured into it. And the Bible says, hey, man, when you're making decisions, don't be hasty. You're going to regret that. You're going to make a decision that now you're stuck with the negative consequences. How long do you have? Number 4 is this. Where do the scriptures speak to this? Is there anywhere in the Bible that speaks to your decisions? Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, submit to God, and he will make your paths straight. I was talking to a guy the other day, and he was offered a new job. And he was telling me about it. He wanted to sit down. How do I know if this is the job that I need to take? It's a new job. So we just started asking everybody. He's like, man, it's going to pay me more money. It's with the same company, so I already know everybody. But it's a higher level job, and it'll be a nicer office, and it'll be like a different situation for me that is so much better. And then he broke it to me. But he said, but I got some bad news, man. He said, the new job is going to entail that I work on Sundays. And so I'm not going to be able to be a part of the service team anymore and like not be able to be a part of the church. I mean, I guess I can catch the broadcast later on in the week when I catch up, but I won't be able to do that. Now, the reality is the Bible is you're not going to open up the Bible and all of a sudden like Psalm 70 verse 1 is going to say, take the job. Like that's not what it's going to do. The Bible doesn't address every specific decision that we make, but the Bible is full of principles that will inform every decision that you make. And so if you were to ask me, Nathan, should I take a job that is going to pull me away from my relationship with God? Is there anywhere in the Bible that would address that? Yep, all over the Bible. Like no way is God going to open up a door for you that's going to result in your relationship with him weakening or would go against the call that we have to honor God and keep the Sabbath holy, to worship, to be a part of a faith family, to open up our scriptures and worship together and to serve each other and be a part of a faith community. It just won't happen. So where does the Bible address it? What does the Bible say about it? There's a second detail in Abram and Lot's story that lets us know Lot made the wrong decision when it came to it. The second detail is in verse 13. It says, when Lot was moving to the city of Sodom, there's a quote there that says, the people that lived there were extremely wicked and constantly sinned against God. Lot, do you think that moving to a city that is enormously wicked and the people are constantly sinning against God, do you think that's going to bring you closer to God or further away from God? Not a trick question. Further away from God. Why would you want to move there? Why would you want to make that decision? God would never want you to make that decision to draw you away from him. So where do the scriptures talk about it? Even here in Genesis 13, God is saying, hey, Lot, be careful about your playmates and your playgrounds. The people over there are going to pull you away. That you're going to end up being just like them. They're not going to help you grow in a relationship with Jesus. It's going to cost you. You don't want to make that decision. You don't want to go there. Fifth question that we ask is, why do you want to? Why do you want to make that decision? Why do you want that particular thing that you're considering? Proverbs 16:2 is like this. All a person's ways seem pure to them, but motives are weighed by the Lord. It's amazing that when you and I make decisions, how easy we can talk ourselves into making any decision that we want. Like we can overlook the red flags and think about all of the benefits. Oh, well, if I had that, then I would do this and I would go there and I would make that happen and I would all of those things. But why do you really want it? I was having a conversation with a friend of mine that was getting ready to, he was offered this job, C-suite job, and he texted me and he said, man, Nathan, I got just complete transparency with me. And he said something like, my annual salary is going to increase by 94%. And like, dude's already got a great job. And so I just straight up asked him, man, like, we're close enough. Like, I'm bold with it. I said, hey, man, what are you going to do with that money? Now, you've already got plenty of money. You got everything you want. You got houses, you got cars. You're living a great life. What are you going to do with it? Like if you got a 94% increase, what would you do with it? And just challenge them on that. Like why are you making, what's the motive behind it? Do you just want to make more money? It's change for your family and change for you. And like you got stability now, but it would involve moving to a different place and doing a different thing. For what? Just because there's more money? And so just kind of push back. What's the motive? Is it because you would find more security in that? That it would make you feel better because you work in a C-suite? That now you got a different title and you're like, you're a corporate guy now? Is that why you want it? Really? What's the motive behind it? Man, Scripture is all about the motives. Like God's like, don't look at what's on the outside. I'm looking at what's on the inside. Why are you doing it? Why would you want to make that decision? Number 6 is this: how will this decision and the impact of it build me and other people up? How is it going to build me up and build others? 1 Corinthians 10 says this: I have the right to do anything, you say, but not everything is beneficial. I have the right to do anything, but not everything is constructive. Here's a question that too many people ask: can I do it? Too few people ask, should I do it? That's what Paul says. Can I do it? Well, sure. Should you? I had a guy ask me the other day, he says, hey, if marijuana was legalized in North Carolina, would it be okay if I smoked it? It's legal. Can I? I guess so. Should you? I don't know. Now, granted, you're not going to be able to open up the Bible. There's no verse that you're going to flip to that says, thou shalt not partake in the devil's lettuce. It's not going to be in there. You're not going to do it. But there are verses in the Bible that says always be sober-minded. Like, why would you ever want to do anything that would not make you sober-minded, that would take you away from God, that's not going to help you follow Jesus and help other people follow Jesus? Like, why would you want to do that? And so, is it legal? Is it okay? Can I do it? Sure. Wrong question for Christians. Should you do it? Because there's some things that Paul says you can do, but you shouldn't do. Because it's not going to help you in your relationship with Jesus. It's not going to build other people up. It's just trouble, man. It's just sideways energy. It's just chasing things that can only be found in God. Can you go into debt? Sure. Can you borrow the money? Sure. Can you buy it? Can you go? Can you do it? Sure. Should you? Need to wrestle with that. It's not just about am I able and do I have the freedom to? Nah, man, what's the smart move? What's the wise decision to make? Start asking yourself, should you, instead of just can you? Number 7, got 2 more. Can it slow me down? How can this slow me down in my life? Hebrews 12:11 says, therefore, since we are surrounded by such a huge crowd of witnesses to the life of faith, let us strip off every weight that slows us down, especially the sin that so easily trips us up. And let us run with endurance the race that God has set before us. I've told you guys this, but when I travel, I have a carry-on bag only policy. You're never going to see your boy dragging a huge suitcase through the parking lot. You're not going to see me in line waiting to check my bag and putting it up on the weight. And they're like, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Klein, your bag weighs 50.8 ounces. That'll be $75 because it's too much for the plane to handle. Like, we need more gas for that. Like, I don't understand. No, you're not going to catch me getting off the plane and walking down to the bottom and staring at the carousel, praying to God that my bag is not in Milwaukee right now, that it actually, like Delta, you know what Delta stands for? Don't expect luggage to arrive. That's what it means. That's how they got that name. Nah, man, like carry-on bag, throw it up your shoulder, bobbing, weaving through the airport, straight through security. Got everything I need, man. I don't want to be slowed down. I don't want to wait on you. Did you know that there are consequences to the decisions that you make that could weigh you down? Ever felt like you've wasted a season in life? You look back and it's like the last 5 years, like, man, what did I do? I thought I would be so much further along. Yeah, you're carrying too many bags. You made decisions that are putting more weight on you instead of stripping all of that off and running. Decisions can do that. Last one is this, maybe the biggest question that we got to ask that'll affect the majority of the questions and the decisions that you have in your life right now. How will God be glorified in this decision? Here's the last verse, 1 Corinthians 10. So whether you eat or drink or whatever you do it all for the glory of God. Here's the reality. The majority of the decisions that you're going to make are neutral, right? Chances are God doesn't care if you live in Louisville or Winston. God doesn't care if you drive the Chevy or the Ford. God doesn't care if you work at Wells Fargo or Bank of America. He doesn't care if you live in North Carolina or South Carolina. Here's God. Make a decision, and whatever you do, honor me with it. I don't care if you make $100,000 or $1 million. Honor me with your finances. I don't care if you got no kids or 20 kids. Honor me with your life and your family. If you got a little house or a big house, honor me. Like, figure out every decision that you make. How am I going to glorify God with this decision? Abram set himself up that no matter what he did and where he went, he was going to give God the credit for it. Whatever I do, Lord, whatever I have, will be because of you. And he set Abram up, his life up for that and succeeded in incredible ways. Hey man, I know that was practical. I hope that was helpful. I hope that'll help you avoid some shame and remorse and regret and kind of navigate maybe some of the decisions that you have in front of you right now. Because like Abram, man, men and women of great faith make decisions differently. Avoid the regret and the shame that Lot experienced and make decisions that honor God. God, give us the wisdom to know what to do with the words that we have just heard. Give us the faith of Abram to see things that we don't know of yet, to make decisions that honor you, even if they don't make sense in the moment, for the delayed satisfaction that would await us if we would simply be obedient to what you've called us to do. God, thanks for preserving this story and helping the Bible to be so applicable to our lives today. Pray and ask those things in your Son, Jesus' name.